The views expressed on Cam, Chris, and Alex Talking Football are not those of End of the Internet LLC, copyright 2012, its affiliates, or any of its partners. If you are offended by the subject of bones, dads, sneaking downstairs, non-sexual hugs, DeviantArt, lanyards, tattooed women, Reggie White, police officers, and individuals who resemble Wes Welker, you may not want to listen to Cam, Chris, and Alex Talking Football. In other words, content may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. This is Cam, Chris, and Alex Talking Football.
Imparting her moist lips.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, hang on, crazy pants.
Let her talk, woman.
Featuring Cam.
Sorry. I was laughing at your clothes.
Chris.
His mind brain is permanently rejecting his real identity.
Mind brain?
That's a thing. Shut up.
And Alex.
But someday I'm gonna write a book about this place. A real smackaroony.
Cam, Chris, and Alex Talking Football.
I am drunk, or I wouldn't be talking to you.
Yeah, no, I am shit-faced.
Careful, cause in about 3 drinks you're gonna get all boo-hooey and ask me to pump a baby in you.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Cam, Chris, and Alex Talking Football, and we're going to skip right over to the free agency frenzy that's been going on over the past couple weeks. And I think that the first thing I really noticed about this year's free agency is that as bad as some of the deals were, and we like to pick out the bad deals before we like to pick out the good deals because those are the ones that stand out the most, this wasn't nearly as bad as last year, where you saw guys like Eric Wright and Robert Meacham getting $15, $20 million guaranteed. As bad as some of these deals where you weren't seeing the same level of atrocious overspending, as bad as some of them were.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like, the worst one we can all think of is probably Eric Walden.
Right.
Yep.
Which is $8 million guaranteed, which is not. You can recover from that in a couple years. That's not franchise crippling like Sanchez is.
So I think one of the biggest reasons that we haven't seen as many of those ridiculous deals this offseason partially is because we saw so many of those ridiculous deals last year. And
Right.
also a big part of it is because you're seeing a lot of, the high-end cap numbers on a lot of the pre-new CBA deals are coming into their own this year. Like, there are guys, I know for the Ravens, Haloti Ngata and Suggs both have extremely high cap numbers this year. I know a lot of teams around the league are in the same situation, so you came into this free agency period with not a lot of money for teams to spend. And granted, there are some teams like the Buccaneers that are still sitting on like $20 million in cap. And
Bengals,
of course the Bengals. Why would the Bengals not be sitting on $30 million in cap room while their franchise right tackle sits on the free agent market getting nothing? But
And the cap floor starts this year too, so they're gonna actually suffer a penalty if they don't get up to, I believe, 90% of the cap ceiling.
Exactly. But I think when you look around at the teams that do have money to spend, that we've seen spending a lot of money, it's the teams, the Seahawks, the Dolphins, the Chiefs, the Browns, and the Colts. And one of the biggest common denominators on these teams is having quarterbacks on these new rookie CBA deals.
Yeah.
So they've got, if you're the Seahawks, you've got 3 years before you have to really pay Russell Wilson a lot of money. You can afford to go out and sign, Cliff Averill and Michael Bennett and go out and trade for Percy Harvin. And you can make these moves because your quarterback is making pennies for the next 3 years. Even if you're the Colts, getting the number 1 overall locked in at 4 years, $22 million is huge.
Yes, it is.
Right. And you look at the Seahawks in particular, and I mean, you got Wilson making I'm pretty sure he's making less than $1 million right now a year.
I think he makes less than $1 million in every year of that deal.
And you've got like Zach Miller and Sidney Rice, the 2 highest paid players on the team. They're making about $60 million combined this year, and Zach Miller's the highest paid player on the team. Zach Miller, who mostly blocked this year,
He's
making
actually the
$9.5
highest
million.
paid tight end in the league.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's because he's front loaded, and they're going to get him for the latter years of Russell Wilson's contract, where they're going to start re-upping him eventually. They're going to get him at relative pennies to what he's making at the beginning of the contract because he's front loaded, and that's going to be a huge. They're very, very smart about how they structured these deals. And when you look at their new acquisitions, you've got Cliff Averill 2 years, Bennett was 1 year, and you've got guys that you can jettison quickly, and you can utilize the cap room without dealing yourself a significant blow in terms of long-term aspirations, which is a big deal. not just because of Russell Wilson, but you got an entire secondary who's playing on essentially rookie deals. Rookie deals, except for Brandon Browner, who is from the CFL, might as well be a rookie. They're all playing on rookie deals, and you're going to have to give them all huge contracts or let them go because they're all really good, with the exception of Browner, who's above average and just not like awesome. And so you've got all these players. You've got this window where you're going to be able to put together a legitimately elite team on almost every position, and it's incredibly unique to the Seahawks, and it's such so amazing how they managed to string together the cap room to put it all together with free agents in terms of 2 years and 1 year deals.
It's really impressive, and another team that really managed to, work around the fact that they're paying their quarterback what their quarterback actually deserves is the Denver Broncos, which
Right.
at first glance seems, a little weird. Like, they've got Peyton Manning, they've got Champ Bailey, they've got all these guys making big ticket dollars, and then you realize Von Miller's on his rookie deal, and Eric Decker and Demaryius Thomas are on their rookie deals, and this is an
Right.
extremely young team in a lot of areas that typically make a lot of money. So they're the kind of team that can go out and sign, Wes Welker and Luis Vasquez and make these deals and have that cap room. Whereas
Right.
you'll look at some of the the more veteran teams in the league, teams like the Ravens and the Steelers that are already capped out, partially because they've got all these veterans on the team.
Right, and in particular with the Broncos, you look at you said the receivers, and really, like, when you look at what their weaknesses were last year versus what they're carrying over this year, a lot of the cap room that they jettisoned was cap room they weren't really using. Prime example, Tracy Porter. I was a big fan of him in New Orleans, but he couldn't stay healthy a lot of the time. He started 4 games in Denver, and they just jettisoned his $4 million cap room, and they can place that with someone who's going to be better, like, for example, Vasquez, Welker is a much better use of the cap room.
I mean, even DRC coming in as a straight
Right.
replacement for him.
That's right.
It's
for half as
you're-
much.
You're making a move solely based on somebody's potential, and I understand that, but it's you're replacing Tracy Porter with Rodgers Cromartie. If he flunks out, you had 3 corners that played well last year. You're not
Right.
really losing anything, and I look at the moves that Denver made, and they're low risk, high reward. Like, I don't see a way that Denver possibly gets worse this year.
I mean, I can see. I don't like it. I can see it though, because McGahee was their only legitimate running threat last year, and he got injured. When they got injured, they kept winning, but they didn't look. They were obviously very clearly unbalanced. They were very one-sided in the passing game. Moreno is not that guy. Ronnie Hillman is not that guy. They don't have a legitimate rushing threat anymore. That McGahee's getting old. He's not going to be that guy anymore. And that I can see being their weakness is the running game. And they're going to focus on Peyton Manning. And in pregame prep, they're going to focus on Peyton Manning. And it's going to pay off in the long term for teams that are playing them because they don't have a significant running threat now. You go after one in the draft, but they haven't gone after anything in free agency yet.
Well, first of all, there's not really a lot out there to go after in free agency. I mean, besides, Steven Jackson and maybe Reggie Bush, there's, peanuts on the market as far as running backs go.
Right.
So I understand in that regard. And second of all, I think this is actually a pretty deep running back class, especially for complementary running backs, a guy they could bring in to pair with a Ronnie Hillman or to pair with a Noshawn Marino. And I think that's, a strength for them. And also, when you look at this team's needs in the drafts, not a lot. I mean, they realistically, they need a safety. I mean,
Their secondary is weak now, I would say, with Bailey clearly on the decline. Champ's not Champ anymore. They need a lot in the secondary.
So at worst, you've still got Bailey, DRC, and what's his name? The other guy.
Harris.
Chris Harris, that's
Yeah,
right.
that's not
cornerback.
terrible.
And
It's not
that's
terrible.
not terrible, exactly. They're weak at safety. They're decent at linebacker. A lot of people are making a big deal out of them losing Doomerville, but I really don't think it's that huge of a loss for them. There's a reason that they could ask him to take a pay cut like
Especially
that.
in the 4-3.
Especially
Ayers
in the
was
4-3.
arguably not. I'm not gonna say he's better, but he's more all around.
He's a better run defender for sure.
Yes, he's absolutely. I think he's better at being an all around 4-3 defensive end than Doomerville was never in the right place as a 4-3 D.
He's a better 3-4 outside rusher. I agree.
Yes.
And when you look at what's done with that line, where you're bringing back Vickerson and putting him next to Pot Roast Knighton and playing Wolf
That's a good
Ayers on the
signing,
ends.
too.
Yeah,
Knighton
that was a great
excellent.
signing.
Yeah, it was.
That's as far as I'm concerned. Even after losing Doomerville, this is sort of what I'm
It's a
segueing
better
into. That
front seven.
I think the Broncos are the #1 team coming out of this free agency period.
number one,
not
overall.
number one. I think they had the best free agency period. Sorry, let me
I
correct
don't agree
myself.
with no.
I think that's definitely possible. I can't think of any other teams that have been like any better.
I mean,
I
the
refuse
only
to-
the only one.
I understand what
only
you're
one-
saying, but I refuse to accept that a team with the majority of its acquisitions on the wrong side of 30 is the best free agency team. I don't accept that.
How do you say a majority? I mean, other than Welker, who did they get that was on the wrong side of 30?
I'm pretty
Knighton's
sure.
27.
Is he 27? Really? I thought he was 29.
Knighton just finished his rookie deal. DRC just finished his rookie deal. Vasquez is 27.
Are they
Like,
really?
most-
I thought Vasquez and Pot Roast were both 20. Well, fuck me.
No.
I thought they were both 29. Yeah, in that case, I'm not gonna say they're the best, but
Welker's the only one.
They've got a lot of high potential players. They don't have a lot of guys who have shown that. You're not going to get a lot of guys who have shown to be amazing in free agency. It's just not how free agency works. But you've got a lot of guys who have shown potential in the past, like especially with DRC, but haven't lived up to it. Vasquez is going to be good. Obviously, Welker's going to be good, but Welker's going to be out of place because you look. Eric Decker is. I'm not going to say he is Wes Welker because he's a white, scrappy gym rat receiver, but Decker's natural place was in the slot. And putting him on the outside is going to be a disadvantage in the long term, I think,
He
because
played
that was
a lot
his
on
natural
the
position.
outside last year. The guy that they used in the slot mostly was Brandon Stokely.
But Decker played a majority of his snaps in the slot, if I remember right. Was it 60%?
I'm going to look that up.
You posted it before. It was about 60.4%, if I remember right. And it was a majority of the snap. And Decker's natural place is in the slot. And I'm not criticizing him for getting Welker because it was a great deal. And if you're going to get a guy for $6 million a year for 2 years, Welker's probably as good as it's going to get. But they still don't have a natural wide receiver to complement Demaryius Thomas as the next receiver. They've got two slot guys, one of whom is going to be out of position on the outside. And other than that, there's not really a whole lot I can criticize about the Broncos.
Decker was in the slot 20% of the time.
Well, I must have been looking at something else, but still, that is his natural position. No, I'm not
gonna eat you alive.
I don't even care. Look, when he played at Minnesota, when Decker played at Minnesota before he had the foot injury. Before he had the foot injury, Decker's he played on the outside some, but his natural position was always in the slot. And when you look at him in the slot, he's got the breaks out of his routes, and he's got superior route running ability to be a natural slot receiver. That's who he is. And to put Welker with him, maybe it's a mentoring thing. I don't know, but I feel like you're overloading with redundancies there because Decker. He doesn't have the size or the speed to be a natural outside receiver. He doesn't have the physical tools for it. And you can look at him play in any game and realize that his natural position is going to be the slot. You look at a guy who's got more talent physically, like Victor Cruz, for example. He's got more talent. He's more physical, and his natural position is still in the slot. And that's where Decker belongs right now. But with Welker arriving, they're going to force him to the outside. I don't see that being necessarily the best move for Denver to put Decker as the wide receiver.
See, my issue with that is you look at a Denver passing attack that was one of the best in football last year, and
Sure.
they're objectively better no matter how you try and spin it, upgrading Brandon Stokely to Wes Welker.
No,
they're
absolutely.
objectively a
Right,
lot
no,
better.
absolutely.
So even if Eric Decker's playing out of position, this is a top 5 passing offense last year that just got better. So,
Right.
Unless you're expecting them to, come in and throw for 500 yards a game, then you're not going to be disappointed in this team's offense. It's going to be very, very good. What did Peyton Manning have as a true outside receiver after Marvin Harrison left and they only had Reggie Wayne? That he made his living with, tight ends and slot receivers. That's what Peyton Manning does. You're catering to your quarterback's strengths. I don't have a problem with that at all.
Right. I know I'm a total bitch for DHB, but I think that Hayward Bay would have been a better outside option with Decker in the slot on 3 receiver sets than paying that much for Welker. I'm probably one of 5 people who thinks that Hayward Bay is that good, but I really think he could have been that guy for Denver.
I love Hayward Bay, but how much is a vertical field stretcher really going to help you when Peyton Manning's your quarterback? He doesn't have the arm strength to, blow the top off a defense like he could in years past.
I mean, just the fact that he's on the field, though. I mean, you look at Breeze; he's got right now less arm strength than Manning has right now, even though he's younger. But the ability, I mean, even on the Super Bowl run, Breeze had less arm strength than Manning has now. And the ability of guys who are not nearly as good as DHB, like Henderson and Meacham, on that run, just the fact that they can be there to stretch the field and then get open on ludicrous broken coverages every once in a while, the fact that they exist and they can break that deep ball, just the fact that they're there is something that the defense has to account for.
I agree that it's absolutely a schematic advantage to have a receiver that you have to cover like that. But I think, to a degree, how many teams are going to be able to line up three cornerbacks against these three receivers?
It's going to be tough.
It's going to be really tough. And yes, in a perfect world, they would have signed a better system fit. But at 2 years, $12 million for Wes Welker, I don't think anybody could be complaining right now.
Oh yeah, exactly.
It's not bad. And the only problem I have with it is if the running game doesn't pick up, if they don't get somebody who can be not necessarily a bell cow back, but somebody who can take 15 carries a game. Somebody, I mean, I know not everyone likes him, but somebody who could be like a Mikael Ashore type guy who can get 4 yards a carry. He's not going to break the big run, but somebody who can at least make you respect the running game in Denver.
I'm still of the opinion that Willis McGahee's that guy. Obviously, you disagree, but I think Willis McGahee's got enough left tank to, at the very least, be Michael Ashore. I mean, his biggest issue last year came with a fumbling problem that sort of came out of left field, because, I mean, that's never really been an issue for him. But I think that Willis McGahee, when healthy, he's okay. I mean, he's not going to embarrass you. It's not like you're running out there and, running, Jaquiz Rogers into the line every play, or running Michael James into the line every play. You're not making.
Jaquiz Rogers can do that though, and
I completely disagree.
I've seen him do it multiple. He had a huge 45-yard run where he broke 3 tackles at the line and then just burst through and that happened. It didn't have 40 plus every time, but that happened several times this year. I mean, when you look at his height-weight ratio, I mean, he's got the Ray Rice height-weight ratio. He's 5'5", and he's 195 pounds. That's the Ray Rice ratio. Ray Rice is, 5'8", 5'9", and he's, 205? I mean, it's the same ratio. And Jaquiz Rogers, I mean, I don't like that they signed Steven Jackson. I thought they should have signed, quite frankly, a spellback, somebody who can be like a receiving back out of the backfield, like a LaRod Stevens-Howling type of guy, because Jaquiz Rogers, at the weight that they're keeping him, now if they want him to slim down and be that guy out of the backfield, he can do that too. But they're keeping him at a playing weight that's a Ray Rice type of ratio where he can run through tacklers, and I don't like if they're keeping him there and making him a spellback. That's not smart.
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up, because I actually really, really like Steven Jackson signing. I think he's got a lot. I think he's got a lot left in the tank.
I don't agree with that, but yeah.
I mean, I think he's got at least 2 years left in the tank. He hasn't shown a single sign of slowing down at all. I mean, when you look at his game last year, especially when you look at the offensive line he had in front of him, the fact that he's become more and more of a weapon out of the backfield in the receiving game than he's ever been in his career, and has still run the ball pretty much just as well as he's done fucking 5 years ago. I think that Atlanta has actually managed to have one of the much, much better off seasons.
I disagree. I agree with you that he was a good signing. I disagree that he hasn't gotten worse in the running game. I think he's had a not significant but noticeable steady decline. But the thing is that he makes himself more versatile. First of all, he's an excellent blocker, which Jaquiz Rogers is not. He's not that blocking guy.
Which is good for Atlanta.
And which is great for Atlanta. And secondly, Jackson has been diversifying his game. He's a better receiver out of the backfield as in previous years, and he makes, even though he's not as good as a power back, he's been making better cuts. And he's been getting that burst, that one-cut burst acceleration that he couldn't do earlier in his career, even though that's not his primary game. He's not the kind of guy who has the speed to make one burst up the field, but he can still do it because he understands that he doesn't have the body to still be that guy who plows through defenders. And that's why, I mean, I'm still an adherent to the theory that once you go over 2,100 carries, you're a bad bet in fantasy. I'm not going to bet on Steven Jackson in fantasy. If anything, because I don't think he'll get that many carries. But when you look at him in the situation he's in at Atlanta, where he can get maybe 10 to 15 carries a game, and he can be that guy who's, he's a little bit over the hill, but he's still very versatile. He can block. He'll be in for the majority of the snaps because he can block and he can receive. I think he's going to be a very solid signing for them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when we look at, the things we talked about that Atlanta needed to address in the draft when we did the NFC South podcast,
Yeah, they got it.
They need a second running back, they got it. They need a tight end, they brought Tony Gonzalez back. They need a pass rusher, they're bringing in OCU Manura, which is not, he's not the number one, alpha dog pass rusher you want.
But they're
It's
probably
a
going to get him
solid
at a
signing.
discount considering the way that everyone else has gone.
Yeah.
Exactly. In this market, it's a great signing. And, I mean, they needed a guy in the secondary. They brought back William Moore. They might have overpaid William Moore, but I think William Moore is still a very good safety in the NFL. So I think that Atlanta has done everything that Atlanta needed to do to make another run next year.
But you forgot about Sam Baker.
I didn't forget about Sam Baker.
They could have re-signed Will Svitek to a sixth of the money and had reasonably similar production out of that position, straight up.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, the Baker deal actually wasn't, nearly as repulsive as it looked.
Oh, wasn't it? That's right. They had, there was.
Yeah, it ended up being realistically a 3-year, $13.5 million deal. So it's not as if Baker's actually gonna make, $40 million off this contract. It's
a big scary number, though.
There's a lot of There's a lot of injury guarantees for a guy that's had some injury problems, and if you're legitimately worried about Sam Baker's back, then obviously you have to be a little worried. But as far as the actual numbers go, it's not awful for a left tackle that's been, not great, not good even, but
he's
kind
had a
of
couple
okay.
of good games ever.
He was
worse
of okay.
than Bushrod. He made sure that the best left tackle in the NFC South was Jamon Bush, and that's sad.
I would not say Bushrod is better than Jordan Gross. Or Donald Penn, for that matter.
Jordan Gross was never healthy, though. Bushrod
or Donald Penn, for that matter, who was healthy.
He's slightly better than Penn, but Gross never played 16 games a year. I'm not trying to... Believe me, I'm the last person on the planet who's going to compliment Jamon Bushrod, but he was at least the best... Sadly, the best left tackle in the NFC South. He was slightly better. Penn was overweight too much.
Gross played 16 games last year.
Right, but last year, but the years before
Loaf
that.
is going to eat you alive.
No, I'm talking about as a... That's cute, Alex. It's really cute.
He played 16 games in 2011.
Did he really?
Yes.
That surprises the hell out of me, because I remember Byron Bell taking snaps at left tackle. Like, that's a thing I remember happening.
He played 16 games in 2010. Were you thinking of someone else?
Apparently I was, because I swear to God. I'm going to be destroyed for this.
2009, he missed a whole game, so we'll get to that.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. Like 4 years ago, he was injury prone.
I'm just going to eat a whole loaf of bread. Just a whole loaf.
Oh, by the way, he played 17 games in 2008 because he made the playoffs.
Fuck me sideways. All right, I'm gonna stop talking. Okay, Jordan Gross is clearly the best left tackle in the NFC South.
There we go.
Okay. All right.
Are we good? Are we good, dads?
Well, okay. So I think that you can absolutely get by with Sam Baker as your left tackle if you're Matt Ryan and have that quick of a release. This isn't somebody like Large Ben that spends 6 seconds in the pocket on every play, or Aaron Rodgers that runs around like a dickhole until somebody gets open. This is a guy that runs a lot of 3-step drops, hits a lot of short routes to his receivers, and with the system that they run on offense, which is going to be exactly the same next year because they're returning 10 starters. The only guy they've got to replace is Todd McClure.
Which is not a huge loss.
Exactly. They're returning 10 starters on offense. They're keeping all the personnel
for like 3
around.
more years.
Oh, you JH2 motherfucker. No,
but
I'm with you on this one.
There's a lot of continuity there. I think that they've got a very good shot based on what they've done this offseason, because this was a team that could very, very easily have fucked it up this offseason. This is a team that could have had a shitty offseason, like a team like the Colts, and ended up being an 8-8 team next year. It would have been extremely, extremely possible.
The only thing I see about the Falcons that I can really point out right now that we're on the subject, is when we're talking about them, we pointed out that they only had, when you're talking about like them when they're trying to come back from a loss, like when they're behind and they're in the passing game, they've got Gonzalez, who's aging admittedly, and they've got Roddy White and Julio Jones. They needed that fourth guy who can threaten people, and they still haven't got. I mean, there's a draft left, still haven't gotten that guy yet. That's the one thing that we're waiting on the Falcons for, is they haven't gotten that guy who can be with Julio and with Roddy, who can be a big play threat. Because Gonzalez is good, but he's not a big play threat. They need that one guy who can be. I mean, hell, I wouldn't call Roddy a play threat anymore. Even though, I mean, if we're not counting, Haruki and the Panthers, he's not a big play threat. They need that one guy who can be either running back as a spellback or at receiver in the slot, who can be a big play threat, and they still have not gotten that guy yet.
Yeah, and I really think when it comes to the Falcons, the biggest thing for them is going to be if you can get 2 impact players in this draft at some position. There are a lot of minor holes in this Falcons team that need to be plugged somehow. If you can get 2 guys in this draft class that step in day one and play major roles, whether they're starters or not,
nothing severe.
That's not hard. Any non-Gene Smith general manager should be able to do that. like that. You have. If I'm not mistaken, they have 8 picks in this draft. I could be wrong on that. But if you hit on 25% of your picks, 2 of which come in the top 60, then you're fine. And that's how I feel about the Falcons. They're a team that's going to be good. They might not be the Super Bowl threat that the team I'm about to segue into is, but. But the other big, there are a couple other really good off seasons I want to talk about, and one of the big ones was the Seattle Seahawks.
See, I had a segue too. My segue was, who do you think had the best and worst off seasons? I'm assuming you're going to go with Seattle.
I already said I think Denver had the best off season.
Right.
So, but I think Seattle is a very, very close second.
Yeah, I think that Seattle's definitely up there because they've really done nothing except get better.
I was going to disagree with you about Denver because Seattle, as Chris
Seattle's
said,
had a great
has
offseason.
done nothing but good. I mean, they've done absolutely nothing but get better. The only starter they've ditched, they've ditched Alan Branch and Leroy Hill.
Yeah, and whoopty shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, Leroy Hill's gone?
Leroy Hill's gone. They've got the only starters they need.
We don't know yet.
Are somebody at wide linebacker, and they need somebody at one gap penetrator defensive tackle, and that's it. And that's all they need in the draft. Well, if you give them that, they have a totally complete defense.
Well, yeah, okay, the defense, yeah, but I'm thinking on like the offense. I feel like if they get a real grown-up guard or a real grown-up right tackle, then they could be even better. However, we saw Russell Wilson was able to deal with that.
Yeah, mobile enough. When you've got one side of the line that's solid, when you look at the Saints, it's the interior, and then some teams have it's the left side, it's the right side.
I've been the one who says if you have 3 offensive linemen, then you have an offensive line. Right now,
exactly.
I'd kind of put Seattle at 2 with just Unger
they've got 2 with Unger and Big Dick Russell. Yeah.
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 They need somebody else. And it's extremely possible that could come out of a healthy year from Moffitt or Carpenter because they're still young. We haven't seen them that often on the field yet. I personally don't believe that they will. I think Carpenter has it in him to be an okay guard. Like, I don't think he's going to come in and start, just fucking closelining people. But
he can be a good guard. Yeah, when he was healthy, he was solid.
I think he could be okay. I think Moffitt's got the potential to be okay. He's another one of these, Wisconsin linemen he's not going to pull out, he's not going to be, super fluid in space, but he can hit people.
Moffitt.
I don't like
the opposite of
Moffitt.
Zeitler.
Yeah.
The opposite of Zeitler, yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. But I don't think any of us are buying into Breno being acceptable at the end of the year as something that's going to continue.
Yeah.
But if
that was pretty spooky, man.
If either one of these guys takes their game to the next level, or they get somebody that comes in and starts day one in the draft, they're fine. And even if they don't, this is a team that did as well as they did last year with one of the fucking McQuiston monstrosities starting on the offensive line.
Yep.
So how much can you, be worried about the Seahawks at this point? I feel like the Seahawks are that team that at worst is 10-6 next year.
No.
I
They're
feel
pretty
like they're
much
such a safe pick. If nobody, knock on wood, that's a major player. Like if Sherman doesn't get injured and Thomas doesn't get injured and Russell Wilson doesn't get injured,
Yeah, they could still
those
make the
those
playoffs
really
with
are,
those
yes.
three being injured. They could, I mean, legitimately, if you put, Browner and Maxwell at corner, Matt Flynn at quarterback, and then whoever the fuck at safety, they're still 10-6. They're still that good.
See,
That's what's scary about them.
I mean, in a hypothetical scenario in which all three of those guys go down week 1, I think they get swept by both the 49ers and the Rams and can probably
no.
manage to lose 3 more games
No
throughout the
way.
rest of the year.
Maybe. I don't know, because a lot of their success depends upon Russell Wilson. I don't see Matt Flynn even tying the
He's not
49ers.
amazing, but
I mean,
I
this
think he
is-
could split with the Niners and split with the Rams at the very least.
I mean, this is the same system that, had Tavares Jackson come in and lose 6-3 to the Cleveland Browns 2 years ago. So, yes, obviously there's a couple new pieces in there, but I don't
With a
think
torn
that
booby
it's...
muscle.
Yeah, couple.
Didn't he have a torn boob muscle?
He did. He had a
He had
completely
to-
torn pectoral, which sidelines most players for the whole year. By the way, just
And
stick
it
it up
would-
for my boy T-Jack.
I absolutely love T-Jack, and I mean, kudos to him for coming back in after Clipboard Jesus fell on his face. But
Boy, didn't we want Clipboard Jesus to succeed?
Oh, that was such a thing.
as
wasn't it?
much as I could possibly want an ACC quarterback to succeed, yes.
I mean, it was. If you watch T-Jack's throw, I mean, but for Buffalo fans, all one of you out there, when you watch T-Jack's throw in Seattle,
hold on. Is that half a fan from Yellow Cyclone and half
Yep,
a fan from Harry?
That's exactly what I
my
was.
God.
All right, that's exactly what I was thinking. No, when you watched him throw, it was almost painful to watch because he literally could not use his pectoral muscle. It was just purely his arm, and he made some the best one by far is if you watch him throw to Golden Tate against the Eagles in 2011, where he's not even he does not use his pectoral at all. It's just pure wrist and forearm. That's it. He can't even use the rest of it because he tore his fucking pectoral muscle, and he throws a beautiful pass to Golden Tate in the back of the end zone, and that's one of the best passes in terms of like injury passes I've ever seen. And if the Bills have to start T-Jacks next year with Doug Marrone as their head coach, I'm not like they're not gonna make the playoffs probably, but I'm not like
They can threaten
hugely
8-8.
opposed to it. They
Yeah,
can
threaten
threaten
8-8.
like a six seed somehow, but
It's the
he's not that
it's
bad.
the AFC. Yeah, they absolutely could. I mean, the AFC is not in good shape right now. I think we can all agree to that.
I could see
Yeah.
them splitting with the Patriots just on CJ Spiller alone.
So,
yeah, obviously. Well,
so-
Alex, we know who your favorite offseason was for free agency. Who's the least favorite in your opinion for free agency?
I actually wanted to hit one more thing before that. See, if there were
Alright.
any sort of, underrated teams that you guys thought had really good off seasons that not a lot of people are talking about. Just one or two teams from each of you guys that you guys thought had a really underrated off season.
Oh, the Ravens, obviously.
I
I mean,
think
clearly.
I think the Ravens are having a pretty decent offseason. Everyone's talking about, they lost 6 starters, but, Doomerville's obviously a good pickup. I don't mean to be a homer, but I happen to like the Patriots offseason a lot so far.
Yeah, they've been fun.
They've been
getting
players
a lot
back
of
that they
guys
needed.
back
Bargains.
for-
The Fulmer deal, I love.
The
Oh,
Homer
it's
deal and
excellent.
the Talib deal, for that matter.
Oh, yeah,
Both
the
of them
they can
came back
bring
so
Talib deal
Lloyd
is so
back.
ridiculous because I look at Brent Grimes, who I love. You know how biased I am in favor of him. What is he asking for? Because teams are just turning him down now. Like, I don't care how good you think you are. You're not that good, dude.
The corner market is inflated as hell right now. With you got
yeah.
Grimes, Asamoah out there who are not. I mean, when I'm looking at free agency right now, when you're talking about underrated teams, it doesn't take that much to find the other. It's who didn't sign a guy to more than $25 million, and who has signed who looked decent last year and hasn't signed a guy to more than a $25 million deal. That's who's had a decent offseason right now. I mean, Homer or the Saints, the Patriots, the Ravens. I mean, well, it's the exception of Doomville, who obviously that was a huge pickup for them. I mean, you look at anyone who hasn't signed, pretty much anyone who hasn't signed a guy above a $25 million deal who had a decent team last year. There's your underrated guys. Because
Actually, here's one. I kind of like the Jets offseason a little bit. They're
well,
still going
with
a
what
bit
they can
slow.
do, right?
I think
Considering their situation, I actually like theirs too. I think
Yeah,
Barnes was
absolutely.
a great signing.
that, yeah.
Yes. Cologne, if he can stay healthy, he's going to be decent at right tackle.
Well, hey, Cologne would probably play guard because they're
I
going
mean,
full on autism.
I'm moving
I
him
think.
out.
The Goodson deal was bad, but
How much was the
yeah.
Goodson deal for? Because I don't remember. that
3 years, $7 million
No,
for Mike
man.
Goodson. Yeah,
You could draft a guy in the 7th for better than that.
I
I
think that's what
agree.
they're going to do.
I agree, but you're still paying, Mike Goodson 3 years, $7 million.
Yeah, that's my point, right?
There were a couple that I saw that I liked. I would have liked the Cardinals offseason a lot more had they not cut Kerry Rhodes and Adrian Wilson. I think they needed to retain Kerry Rhodes at the very least. Adrian Wilson was coming off a bad year. I understand moving away from him, but I think that all the signings that I've seen the Cardinals make, bringing in guys like Shaughnessy and Kason for next to nothing,
It's not bad.
were good moves. I mean, I know that they brought in Drew Stanton to be their potential Week 1 starting quarterback, and that's a bit rough.
Believe in Brian Hoyer.
But
Oh,
I mean,
Brian Hoyer's the man. He's going to be the starter.
it's Hoyer and Stanton and a rookie in that quarterback competition is going to be interesting to watch. I mean, even bringing in Jeremiah Bell early in free agency for less than $1 million. Like, I mean, Jeremiah Bell is by no stretch of the imagination, an above average safety anymore. But a veteran strong safety at less than $1 million, that's a
pretty
good
good.
signing.
You play safety, so that's someone.
I mean, even if you're, Bruce Arians and you're gambling on Mendenhall coming back and being decent, it's at $2.5 million. It's costing you like nothing. I liked
No guaranteed
all the
either.
guys they brought in. Right. If he can't healthy, then that you can move away from it.
Cut him, yeah.
I liked them. I liked what the Giants have done so far. From moving on from a guy like Bradshaw and making Deal go down to $1.1 million in base salary.
Oh yeah,
which is
it's
a
great.
move for
Giants
them.
had a great offseason, yeah.
Bringing in
Rivers
Brandon
back for
Myers.
7-1-5.
Yeah, bringing in Brandon Myers, who, as bad of a blocker as he was last year, played the entire year with a sprained AC joint. And I mean, try
pretty
blocking
solid.
with a sprained AC joint.
What
That's
the hell, man? That's some Logan
Yeah.
Lincoln shit.
yeah. Played tight end for the Raiders that required him to actually block with effectively one arm. So I think that's a very, very serious bounce back candidate, and one that I know you guys are going to disagree with, and I'm only saying this because of the way they structured their deals. The Philadelphia Eagles.
They're fine with
okay.
me.
Like my big issue when I was posting about this on the boards is I don't think that they signed very good players. As far as structured deals go, sure, fine.
They signed a bunch of pretty good players, and then they had, of course, the two big misses on Barwin and Kerry Williams, which we're familiar with. Which between the two,
I don't
have
think
about
Williams was missed. I mean, I think that was a solid number considering it was front loaded. They're going to be able to jettison him by year 2.
I mean, you've got $14 million guaranteed between the two of them, and that kind of sucks if you're an Eagles fan because I wouldn't want to see either one of those guys starting for my team. But they're going to a 3-4, which is dumb, but whatever. They bring in Sopuaga, who's a good 3-4 nose. They bring in a guy like Bradley Fletcher, which is a fantastic signing.
Yes, it is.
They've gone out and they've gotten useful players at decent amounts of money. I mean, even if you're Chip Kelly transitioning into your fucking Chip Kelly system, you bring in Dennis Dixon for next to nothing. That's a quality signing. Like as a third quarterback who potentially has to be a backup after Michael Vick goes full scrambly brains. Like it's a solid
Not
move.
bad. You still got. I'm kind of disappointed they didn't trade Foles yet, but that might happen in the draft.
I don't think that they're getting very good offers for him.
And
They should
truthfully,
be. He was solid.
Truthfully, I even really like your Aurelius Ben move. I mean, if Aurelius Ben can stay
a good
healthy, I
trade.
think he can contribute.
No,
They gave up nothing,
Yeah.
and they already re-signed him to a deal where they can cut him for nothing. It's
solid
no
move.
loss for them. I think
if anything, the Eagles have always been great at managing their cap. That they've never had a problem
they
with
are.
that.
Yeah.
And let's not forget the Phillips deal, which I somehow neglected to message. Him and Chung coming in and playing
him and
safety
Chung
for
are
that
now-
team.
Yeah, that's a decent safety pair.
If Phillips is healthy, that's like at already day one a top 10 safety pair in the NFL. Like
Because safety pairs in the NFL aren't very good right now.
Yeah, exactly. But even so, I mean, Kenny Phillips is a good free safety, and Chung's a pretty good strong safety, who was
That's
in
correct.
Belichick's doghouse for God knows why. But
I'm not going to get into that.
let's stay out of that, Dad.
so, now to answer your question of teams that I thought had the worst off seasons, I mean,
The worst.
the obvious one is the Colts.
Yeah.
There's no way I can't pick the Colts when you're giving how much to Eric Walden again?
Ugh.
How much?
$8.5 million guaranteed, 4 years, $16 million. Oh,
4
right,
years,
right in the
16
dads.
million to Eric Walden. And that's not even including bringing in Ricky Jean-Francois, who started 4 games in his career for 4 years, 22 million.
Right
That's
in the
not
dads.
including 14 million guaranteed for LaRon Landry. That's not including, the fact that you're
LaRon Landry really get $14 million guaranteed?
14 million guaranteed
Oh,
on a
that's
4
right
year,
in the dads.
$24 million deal.
That's right in the dads.
Bringing in Matt Hasselbeck, your backup quarterback, for $5 million guaranteed, 2
Okay,
years, $8 million.
Okay, I like that move, so whatever.
Not
$5
at that
guaranteed.
price. Not at that price. How many times have I tried to argue how important it is to pay your backup quarterback next to nothing? If you're the Colts and Matt Hasselbeck's in, you are not winning a Super Bowl, period. Your team is not good enough. Do not waste this much money on a backup quarterback who's not even that good.
Okay,
Greg Toller
I
is
think,
looking
no,
to be a
I
starter.
think that if you have
Greg
Hasselbeck come
Toller,
in...
3 years, $15 million.
All right, there's our...
A day one signing of fucking Greg Toller for the exact same amount a year that Derek Cox is getting from San Diego, for the exact same amount yearly that Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie is getting from Denver, and it's fucking Greg Toller. Like, how do you do this?
I bet Loaf is jealous right now.
And I haven't even mentioned the 5-year, $34 million deal for fucking Coster Sherrills.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is, like, as much as KD3 and I were defending Sherrills, for that price, with those back problems...
In
not back,
retrospect.
decoms,
Especially in retrospect.
He's already had stem cells rubbed all over his knees twice. He's 29. You really expect him to hold up?
Especially, it was. We were trying desperately to defend it, but especially in retrospect, when you look at what Vollmer got, looks really bad. It looks really bad in retrospect.
And Andre Smith's still on the free agent market. Like, he's still there.
Isn't that weird, though, considering how much room Cincinnati has to spend? Like,
They're gonna bring him back.
It's not weird. It's
They're
not
gonna
weird
bring him
because
back.
Mike Brown is literally loaf.
But they're literally contractually obligated to bring back a certain level of They're going to bring Andre Smith back. They're just being loafish. It's not...
SpongeBob, I want to be second chair clarinet in the AFC North next year.
It's so bad. But no, they're going to bring him back. They're going to bring back all the guys they want. I mean, there's a few guys that the Bengals haven't re-signed that haven't come back yet. They're going to bring... at the very worst, most of them.
Well,
back.
have you heard Mike Brown's excuse for why he's not spending this offseason yet? It's a good one.
Because PFF said that Andre Smith was good.
No, because he's worried about having to extend Geno Atkins next year.
Oh, that's actually a good reason.
Come on.
That's actually a great reason. I would give
That's
Geno
a
Atkins
good reason. That's
I
a
would
good
give him like
reason to not
$80
hit the cap
million.
floor. You're
I
absolutely
would
right.
give him like $80 million.
Yes, let's not hit the cap floor because Geno Atkins will be a free agent after next season. That's a great idea.
I'd give Geno Atkins like $80 million right now to be on my team. He's fucking awesome. I love Geno Atkins.
Me too.
He's wonderful,
I mean,
but he's
over
just going to
10
walk away
years.
next year too. This is a team that let Jonathan Joseph walk away to replace him with Terrence Newman.
and Pac-Man Jones.
Pac-Man
They
Jones had a
re-signed.
great year.
They re-signed Pac-Man Jones.
And Brandon
that was a
Tate.
great signing. It legitimately was. Pac-Man Jones had a great year last year.
I mean, as a slot corner.
Well, okay, but yeah, as a slot
Eh.
corner, he had a good year.
So,
Wait,
but they haven't
they
brought.
like
They still
Shante
got Leon.
Spencer at safety or something?
There it is. There's
Isn't that
a
weird?
Yeah. They had some not
Fucking
they had some
Mike
shit. They had some shit going on. Yeah.
Chris Crocker?
Chris Crocker is who you're thinking of.
I'll leave him alone.
They had Shante Spencer playing safety, and I believe Oakland.
No, he was playing cornerback in Oakland before he went on IR.
That too.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
he played. I'm pretty sure he played snaps as safety.
Wait, was it
I'm not
Shante Spencer
positive,
or Nate
but
Clements?
Same fucking person.
he's like
I don't know.
80
It was Chris
he's
Clemens.
83.
No, Chris Clemens was in Miami. Nate Clements was in Cincinnati. Whatever. They're
Chris
the same
Clemens,
fucking person. Who
Chris
cares?
Clemens
They're
is in
bad.
Seattle. He's the defensive end.
Our brand
Chris
integrity is
Crocker.
going right down the
Chris
shitter.
Crocker is in Cincinnati.
What?
Oh, Loaf is going to eat you alive.
All their names are the same. Shut up.
Yeah, Alex.
Oh, remember when this podcast wasn't all about memes?
So many memes in the podcast. All 80,000 of my bones hurt with laughter.
SpongeBob, you don't even watch football.
I'm done. All right. Well, if we're
All right,
going with
so
if we're
who
going with
else?
opinions, my least
Look,
favorite.
all your opinions have been wrong so far.
Shut the fuck up. My least
My
favorite.
opinion is that Chris Clemens played safety.
Oh Jesus!
Did I
I'm gonna die.
really mix up Chris Clemens, Nate Clemens, and Chris Crocker? Holy shit, I'm the best person.
Oh, I'm gonna die. Okay, if I could breathe, if we're not counting the Colts, then my least my least favorite free agency probably goes to the Bears, considering what they had to work with.
This is why you're not a mod anymore.
This is why I don't have tag janitor skills anymore, is because the Bears have had a pretty, I think, pretty significant room to improve themselves. When you look at what they did in the first half of the year,
Bushrod.
especially with the defense, they were a step away from having a defense that was so good that it could compensate for literally everything the offense did. That's how good their defense was. Even with Urlacher being shit, because he's old and he's crippled and whatever the fuck. They had a defense that was so good for the first 10 games of the year that it honestly didn't matter how bad that offensive line was. That's how good the defense was. All they had to do was sign some bog standard mediocre linemen and get one guy on defense, one really good, like maybe at safety, not even great. Shit, get the corpse of Ed Reed out there. Something at safety, something at linebacker. Hey,
the corpse of Ed Reed cost 3 years, $15 million.
Oh,
So.
it did, didn't it? But still, I would have been okay with that for Chicago, because all they really needed is one decent piece on defense, and they could be good enough that you could stock a bunch of mediocre, $1 to $2 million a year linemen instead of fucking Jonathan Scott, who they re-signed, by the way. Instead of stocking these assholes at linemen and getting Cutler destroyed, you could supply him with a few, not even good, get Winston Justice and a couple of assholes at guard out there. Trade for Rob Sims or something. Not even good linemen, just okay at one thing, and then sign a decent defenseman, and they could have had a great offseason and had a defense that was actually so good they could overcome the offense's worries. And instead they signed fucking Jermon Bushrod to $8,000 a day.
Yeah, that's
whatever
the thing.
fuck.
Of all offensive linemen to overpay, why Jermon Bushrod? Why not overpay Brandon Moore? Why not overpay Andre Smith?
Well, the easy answer is because Aaron Kromer is their new offensive coordinator. He was the offensive line coach in New Orleans, and they wanted a guy who was familiar with, so they got Bushrod. It's the easy, stupid answer I've been praying for. As a Saints fan, I've been praying for it the whole offseason, and it was beautiful because it happened exactly like I wanted to. Bushrod went back to his old offensive line coordinator, and it was a horrible... I can't see a future for the Bears in the next 5 years. Cutler's career is over if he didn't leave Chicago, as far as I'm concerned, because there's no way that if they're going to bring Jermon Bushrod in for that much money, there's no way they give a shit about this franchise enough to give Cutler pieces to work around, which is sad because he got Martellus Bennett, I believe, didn't he go to Chicago?
Right.
Yeah, and they've got some...
It was a good signing.
They've got Bennett, who's a good signing, right? And they've got, Alshon Jeffrey, Brandon Marshall, and then, whatever at slot receiver. Can they bring Sandsmacher back? They should. He's white. Whatever. But they've got but they could have done so much more with that Bushrod money, and they just let it flop. It was
Dane
sad.
Sanzenbacher is an American football wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Oh no!
Wah, wah.
Oh, Mike Brown, you've got enough. Come on, you re-signed Brandon Tate.
Jesus,
Hey,
Leo J is
look.
going to be listening to this. He's going to be doing the Squidward, and all this. He's gonna be doing that.
You're never gonna steal the Krusty Krab formula, Plankton.
The secret ingredient. The secret ingredient is manatee. Spoiler alert.
No, but yeah, it's a typical Mike Brown move to cut Jordan Shipley and save $300,000
Fucking
by replacing him with
Sanzenbacher.
Dane Sanzenbacher. That $300,000. Think about how much laundry you could do with that. But I digress. The other team I really wanted to hit that had an absolutely abysmal offseason was
Miami.
the Tennessee Titans.
Oh,
I was gonna say that,
Tennessee
yeah.
Titans.
What? They were not great.
That's
I
$11
wasn't gonna
million
say bad.
for Sean Green, $11 million for Sammy Lee Hill to be their 4th defensive tackle.
They did
$8
resign
million?
Derek Marks. He's the 3rd. They didn't
No,
resign
they've
Derek
still got
Marks.
Klug. He's gonna play. He's probably gonna play behind Klug because he's a pure run defender. He's probably gonna come off the field on 2nd and 3rd down.
Yep.
And the fucking Andy Levitre contract, and I'm looking for the details right now, was awful.
He's a pass blocking
spent
guard playing in
so
a
much
running
money.
system.
It's a bad system fit, and they overpaid him because Luis Vasquez got half of what Levitre
That was
got.
bad. Yeah, that was bad.
It was a gratuitous over 6 years, $46 million. In comparison, Vasquez got 4 years, 23.5.
Oh, it's so egregious.
It was,
But
was
it's
just
not as. I still don't think it's as bad as Miami.
See, here's the thing. Here's the big difference for me when it comes to a team like Indianapolis against a team like Miami. For Indianapolis, they spent all this money, they made all these moves, and I don't see a much better product on the field. I see, they're obviously a little bit better. Bringing in a guy like LaRon Landry obviously improves their safeties. You can't argue with that.
Right.
Greg Toller is better than what they had at cornerback last year, which isn't saying fucking anything. But it's still true. Gosder Shirtless, for as long as he stays upright, is a tiny bit better than Winston Justice. Donald Thomas is their only, outright clear huge upgrade at guard.
Yeah.
They needed that. When I look at Miami spent way too much fucking money. They did stupid things, like cutting their way out of Carlos Dansby. Retarded, absolutely, just unjustifiably
we know.
dumb. They've made so many moves like that, and as far as I'm concerned, the Chiefs and the Browns are in the same boat as the Dolphins right now. They spent way too much money on players that weren't worth it, but I look at their roster and go, this is a much better team. I think Miami legitimately signed enough talent for way, way more than that talent was worth to make a run at the 6th seed in the AFC next year, because the AFC is bad, and they've now got enough players to actually do something about it.
$30.5 million to Brian Hartline. That's all I gotta say.
Terrible deal. Absolutely terrible
that
deal.
was one of their terrible deals.
But look at all the holes they could have filled with half decent players. I mean, when you look at
What holes do they have left? Cornerback? Left tackle?
When you look at tackle, guard,
they need one offensive
center?
lineman.
Wait,
they have Mike Pouncey.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys like to talk about Marquise. You guys like to talk about Marquise. You guys like to talk about Marquise Pouncey like he's the only overrated Pouncey. Mike is overrated too.
Mike Pouncey's top 10.
He is overrated. No, he is absolutely overrated.
Oh, that's bullshit.
I was going into this from the start. Mike Pouncey was not. Look, you know what? You're gonna love this. If you like what I just said, you're gonna fucking love this. Richie Incognito legitimately covered up some of Pouncey's weaknesses, and I'm not even kidding. Incognito was one of the better. Was when he's not tearing people's face masks off and beating the shit out of them. Incognito is one of the better guards in the league. And he when John Jerry wasn't shitting himself on the field, Incognito was covering up Pouncey's weaknesses.
No, look, dude, Incognito should be banned from the NFL because he got stomped by Wade Smith. He got stomped on by Wade Smith, so therefore he should be banned. That's just how.
Even if you don't like Mike Pouncey, he's still low tier top 10. I'd put him at like 8 or 9.
Yeah, like even if you don't like him, you can't really argue with how good of a pass blocker he's become.
I'm not there. With him, I'm not there yet.
I look at Mike Pouncey, and he does everything well. All right.
In fairness, there wasn't a lot left that was better than him on the market. But I don't see that as being a particular strength of the team.
The offensive line is not a strength of the team. You're absolutely right. The offensive line is not a strength.
When you look at what they filled on defense, it's just shit that they cut anyway.
Yeah, that was weird.
I agree.
Like when they cut Kevin Burnett to bring in Philip Wheeler,
that's retarded. It's so stupid.
I agree that both those moves were dumb, but it's hard to argue with as little talent as they had on offense last year, and with watching what that offense did with effectively the same starting 5 up front that they're going to have this year, because Jake Long was either playing hurt or not in the lineup the entire year. And that's not including the fact that they're talking to guys like Eric Winston, could also add somebody in the draft because they've got 2 second-rounders.
But they had nothing at running back either. Bush was far the best thing they had at running back.
And I think Lamar Miller and Donald Thomas, as a platoon, have a potential to be a decent running back.
Daniel Thomas, you spurg lord. Loaf is laughing in his sleep.
Well, okay, he made his first mistake of the podcast. Shut the fuck up.
That's like his third. Shut up, Dad.
Second, I'm keeping track.
Cutting Carlos Dansby and adding Donnell Ellerby. I don't know that that's
It
clear.
doesn't. It
No.
doesn't. No, you're right.
That's
That doesn't make
dumb.
them
You're
better. It's a stupid move. I agree that it's a stupid move, but what they've brought in on offense for Tannehill to work with, Tannehill, who's working, like I said, effectively behind the exact same offensive line that, was somewhat kind of sort of on the fringes of playoff contention for like 12 weeks last year. Now he has receivers. Now Devon Bess is not his number one. I mean, that in and of itself is enough to make this team relevant.
Did they get anybody tight end? I forgot, honestly.
Dustin Keller.
Dustin Keller, yeah.
Oh, that's not it. No, that doesn't count.
It counts when you were starting Anthony Fasano.
When you look at, what Keller can do blocking, which is not much, versus what Fasano can do receiving, which is not much. I mean, they average out
It's just a sideways
not
move.
it's a sideways move.
I think it's an upgrade solely because taking any receiving
And
threat
because you like
whatsoever
Tannehill.
away from Mark Sanchez and putting him with a quarterback that, isn't worse than you or me is an improvement.
Oh man,
So
guys, we
I
took
think-
away a weapon from that playoff contention.
No,
Jets.
not take you stupid dickhole, not that. He's now playing with a real quarterback. God, you're retarded.
I know. I just had to do that.
Yeah.
I knew
What about
that was
those?
coming too.
Speaking of what about those Jacksonville Jaguars? Okay, I can't do this. No, we're not. We got to settle because I'm running out of battery. Whatever.
All right, I
We
had
gotta settle.
one more team I wanted to shit on.
Sure.
Okay? Because I really feel the need to shit on the
But
San
I
Francisco
got like 20.
49ers.
I got like 20 minutes left. Let's go.
Okay. All right, San Francisco 49ers had a terrible fucking offseason. You signed Glenn Dorsey to be your starting nose tackle. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, that was weird.
Like, not
Bolden
only
took too much cap. They're going to get beat on Asamoah by the Saints because
Yeah.
they signed Bolden for too much cap.
and they gave fucking Craig Dahl. Yeah,
Craig Dahl.
exactly. You got worse
Gregory
from
Dahl,
You got worse from DeHawk. How?
who was signed for $43.5 million.
That was
fuck
weird,
the
too.
NFL. That's weird as shit. Being Gregory Dahl, are you fucking for real? I'm gonna look. This might be a stretch. I'm gonna trust in the 49ers front office that they're gonna draft somebody at safety in the first.
They've got like
first 2 days.
35
They've got
draft
to.
picks.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
they've got to trade up for Denny
No, I mean,
Vassaro.
they're gonna draft a legitimate starter at safety in the first 2 days. They have to. If they didn't, that would confirm everything I believed about the
Hold
49ers,
First
including
rounds, they could
Balky
draft
being
someone.
shit.
They could draft someone in the 7th who's better than Craig Dahl.
See, here's my problem.
But that's not my point.
That if you're gonna go cheap at safety, you've already got Darcel McBath on your roster, who's not objectionably awful. I mean, he's a third
I would
safety.
disagree with that, but
He's
okay.
a third safety. He's a third safety. He's absolutely better than Craig Dahl. Is that fair to say?
It might be fair to say. I've seen Craig Dahl play. I didn't like him.
maybe.
I haven't
Okay,
seen
well
McBath
you're
play.
stupid. He's better than Craig Dahl.
No, I'm
so
saying I
you just
haven't
gave
seen
Craig
McBath.
Dahl
haven't
$5 million
No,
for
I've not
absolutely
seen-
nothing.
Who the fuck has seen enough of Darcel McBath to know if he's better than Craig Dahl?
How much autism do you think I have? I rest my case.
No. How much more autism do you think you have than me? I mean, I've seen McBath play on spec. I've never seen him play at safety.
Darcel
Well, I mean,
McBath
with your,
had
70
36
IQ
snaps.
swamp blood lifestyle, I mean, you
It's
can have
true.
internet down there in the south.
It's true.
Yeah.
I drink from the vines in the swamp.
Hold on, I'm looking for all of Darcel McBath's snaps. He got 36 last year, none in 2011, none in 2010.
You
But he looked good in
all those
college.
36 snaps. What'd you get from that?
He looked good
fuck.
in college. I think he can do it.
Oh, Loaf
It's
is
the
going.
same No, hold on.
Loaf is gonna
Hold
jack
on.
off on your corpse.
Hold on. This is the exact same reason that I've been slurping Denoris Searcy in Buffalo. Because I think he has absolutely the right skill set to fit this team.
This Darcel.
You know the reason
McBath,
I liked
motherfucker.
Denoris Searcy? Because I saw him play. He got 279 snaps last year and looked decent in them.
Yes, he did look decent in them.
Yeah, but let's
And
look at
I
Darcel
said
McBath's
this during
36
the fucking
snaps.
AFC East podcast.
Shots fired, motherfucker. Let's go.
This is my point. This is how bad Craig Dahl is. Like, what part of this don't you get? You just threw away $5 million on someone who is
I'm not
arguably
defending the
worse
signing.
than Darcel McBath.
They only threw $3 million away on him. In fact, $3 million guaranteed.
It's
Oh.
$800K guaranteed.
Is
3
it?
years,
Is that
5
it?
mil.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was 3. Oh well, 3 years, right? But whatever. You're my.
Yeah,
what-
you know numbers. Whatever.
Well,
you know.
I'm just loafing. Don't worry about
I
it.
don't do math. I do lawyer stuff.
Damn right.
Like scaring your dog.
Man, he
Alright.
had that one
Well,
snap
if we're
against
talking
Chicago,
about-
but I learned a lot from that snap.
if we're talking about like teams that haven't done much in free agency, I'm looking at the Saints personally, who haven't done a lot, and I'm more. What are some players like that you would think? I guess if we had a little time left, that should have been off the market, weeks ago, or just at least days ago. I mean, I'm thinking Eric Winston, Darius Hayward Bay, not Darius Moore, Darius Hayward Bay, Eric Winston should have been off the market a long time ago, and they're still there. Some other guys that should have been gone long ago.
Kerry Rhodes, definitely. I think it was one of the
agree.
best safeties in football last year. I don't know how people aren't beating down his door. He hasn't even really gotten a visit that I'm aware of yet.
Yeah.
People might be like the age thing. He's not that old though.
He's only like 31, 32.
Yeah, that old, yeah.
Carlos Dansby's another one who was, if I'm not mistaken, the 11th rated middle linebacker on PFF.
I'm surprised he's still available.
I'm really surprised, especially with how shallow this middle linebacker market is, that a team like the Ravens isn't beating down his door. Michael Huff's a guy that's finally starting to get some attention that I think is going to sign soon, and I think is going to be a quality contributor for whoever signs him. I mean, there's no doubt he's an adequate starting safety in this league, and he's young enough to where you might think, okay, maybe he's going to improve now that he's not playing for fucking Oakland. But
I mean, you look at Dansby. I mean, you got Justin Durant just got a $2 million. We hadn't actually gotten the deal yet because Dallas has zero cap room, but he's got an assumed deal from Dallas for 2 years, and Dansby still can't get signed. Justin Durant's getting deals, and you can't get Carlos Dansby. I mean, who is he waiting for, and who's waiting for him is what I can't figure out. Because I mean, look at the teams who need 3-4 inside linebackers. And none of them have cap room. The Steelers don't have shit for cap room. The Ravens don't have shit for cap room. The Saints already have 2 inside linebackers. So do the 49ers. I mean, there's not a lot of 3-4 teams that need inside linebackers right now.
And I don't even think he's limited to a 3-4. I think he could absolutely play in a 4-3 like he did last year.
3-4.
I agree.
He'd be way better. He was not nearly as good as he was in the 3-4.
He was still very good.
He was still solid. I wouldn't say he's very good. He was still solid. Yeah, sure.
Speaking of guys that I don't understand what kind of offer they're waiting for, Victor Butler's taken 4 physicals at the point. Victor Butler is a guy that I really like coming into this offseason. He's a guy I really like coming into the offseason.
So bad.
He's absolutely, in my opinion, the best 3-4 outside linebacker left on the market. He's taken 4 physicals. He hasn't signed a deal with any of the teams. Like, I have to wonder what exactly it is that he's holding out for.
But he didn't fail any of them either.
Well, we've already visited this, but we have to wonder what Brent Grimes is looking for.
Oh, come on. I don't want him.
You're casting like out of Jersey if he signs with the Patriots, but I don't know what he's asking to be paid.
All I want for Dadmus is Asamoah and DHB and fucking Victor Butler. That's all I want, and I can't even get one of them. I mean, guys.
You'll probably get Asamoah. I bet he's coming to New Orleans.
It's between 49ers and the Saints. I like to think that we have the cap room to outbid the 49ers. That means we won't get DHB probably, and we probably won't get Butler either, which is sad because with Lewis and Asamoah at 1 and 2, I like that 1 and 2. I think that could be pretty good for the Saints considering what we had last year.
I heard DHB was visiting the Colts, and they could use a wide receiver.
Yes, he is, and that would be a very good signing for them.
Absolutely.
One last name that I think is at the very least interesting that I'm surprised has garnered no attention since he's gone on the market is Kevin Cobb.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. He still is on the market, yeah.
He hasn't gotten a single visit that I'm aware of. If you're a team like the Bills or the Jets, why are you not beating down Kevin Cobb's door right now?
Well, I think it's more that he's making like $10 million right now, and he doesn't have to do anything. He doesn't have to go anywhere.
Yeah,
and
but you can't take a year off as a quarterback. Like, you're not Lovie Smith.
He doesn't have to
get away with this.
But he doesn't have to do anything right now. He can be patient and wait for the preseason because he's got 9. If he really didn't want to, he can be Carson Palmer.
I mean, I can't imagine wanting to be Carson Palmer signing his contract with his fucking Velcro watch, but
I can't imagine it. But
I mean, if you're one of these quarterback needy teams, like I don't see how you're not, kicking the tires on a guy who's what, 27, who's flashed it. He flashed it last year before he got hurt.
He had decent, he had some decent games.
They went 4-0 with him as a starter. He looked good.
That wasn't because of him. Yeah, he was solid. I mean, he wasn't good. He was decent.
It's twice as many games as Chad Henne won, and he's got a job going into next year.
All right. For the next podcast, I think we get more specific into. I think we do it by conference, AFC, NFC, for 2 podcasts in a row, and then break it down like that. Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, one of these days. Hey, I still want to get that NFC East podcast down, but
we'll incorporate that into the NFC, absolutely. And before you go, the one guy you want your team, you got Ravens, Patriots, Saints. One guy you want your team to sign more that they're not necessarily interested in right now more than anybody else.
Brent Grimes,
Kerry Rhodes,
Bryant McKinney. Just somebody who can play left tackle. He's
that's one. I thought that they would go after that in the draft, but
I think so too. But in the 4th or later round, because we got Bushrod was the 4th, and then Charles Brown was kind of a 7th. We thought it. Whoops, a daisy. We thought he'd start at the end of the 2nd round, but nope. Yeah. But you guys got anything else? Because I'm done for the night.
I'm gay.
Yeah, well, I'm autistic too. This is Cam, Chris, and Alex talking football, and we'll see y'all next time, probably very soon.
I don't even have clothes. Glad to be back.